Hello and welcome. Our top story is from Nigeria. Fresh terror attacks have rocked the country. Terrorists raided 7 villages in Kebbi state, killed over 30 people and stole their cattle. The coordinated attacks were launched earlier this week. The gunmen swept through villages, stormed households and opened fire on people indiscriminately. Survivors have described the attacks as highly organized. Authorities have blamed the attacks on the Lakurawa group. It mainly operates in Kebbi and neighboring Sokoto states in northwestern Nigeria. The terror group has previously carried out similar raids in Kebbi. Now, their tactic is to launch simultaneous attacks to overwhelm local defenses. Back in December, the US targeted the Lakurawa group during its Christmas Day strikes in Sokoto. Lakurawa is a relatively new terror group in the region. Nigeria has officially declared it as a terrorist organization and banned it across the country. Nigerian officials claim that the group is affiliated with the Islamic State Sahel province. The Sahel states of Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso have been struggling to contain insurgency. Now, this has further compounded their neighbor Nigeria's insecurity. The African nation continues to battle multiple armed groups, from Boko Haram in the northeast to heavily armed kidnapping gangs operating across the northwest and central states, and separatists in the southeast. Now, just last week, attackers raided 3 villages in Niger state, killing over 30 people.
They slaughtered 6 people like animals here alone. In Konkoso, they followed people house to house, slaughtering them. While some were shot with a gun, others were caught and hit with a stone to their heads until it broke and they died, because the town is rocky.
Pressure is mounting on the Tinubu government to restore stability. And amid this, it has turned to the US for technical and training support to counter terrorism and violence. Earlier this month, the US Africa Command confirmed that American troops were already operating in Nigeria. It said that 200 troops were expected to join the deployment overall. However, Nigerian authorities have stressed that the US troops were not combat forces. US President Donald Trump has targeted Nigeria over its rising insecurity. He has made Christian persecution claims and accused the Tinubu government of not doing enough to protect its Christian population. Abuja has denied Trump's allegations, saying terror attacks take the lives of Christians and Muslims alike. Though the US is providing security support, Nigeria does not want to depend on Washington excessively, which is why Abuja is trying to diversify its foreign security partners, and one of them is Germany. Now, this week, President Tinubu and German Chancellor Merz held a telephone call, and they discussed deepening cooperation on security, power, and infrastructure. Nigeria plans to buy German helicopters to boost reconnaissance and intelligence operations in the Sahel. Earlier this week, Nigeria's security advisor visited Brussels. Nigeria and the European Union have agreed to strengthen joint efforts to counter terrorism and violent extremism. Now, back in January, Tinubu's visit to Turkey also included a security component. The latest attacks in Kebbi have yet again highlighted that rising insecurity in Nigeria is a threat to the entire region. Now, it remains to be seen what strategy Nigeria opts for to counter the menace in the coming days. Now, for more on this, we have with us Joachim Makebong, who is a senior analyst at Control Risks, joining us live from Lagos, Nigeria. Welcome to Firstpost Africa.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for being with us. Now, what does the latest Lakurawa raids in Kebbi State tell us about the group's operational strength and reach, especially after the US airstrikes reportedly targeted them in Sokoto over Christmas?
Thank you, Alyson. I think the first thing to remember is that in a campaign like this is going to take some time to be able to dislodge many of these groups. And that's because they are already entrenched and they've been able to operate without much by way of significant opposition, because they are better armed and they also operate in spaces where they tend to have greater numbers. So Nigeria's main problem, one of Nigeria's main problems, is that it doesn't have the necessary numbers of security personnel in order to properly secure the country from not only in urban areas but in rural areas as well. So as it stands now, Nigeria is under-policed, and the army that typically also supplements with security operations of its own also does not have enough men to properly secure these various parts of the country. Again, like I said, not just urban areas, that is state capitals and the big cities, but also the rural areas. And if you watch and if you look at a map where many of these groups operate, many of these groups operate in the rural areas where the security cover is not is nowhere near as concentrated as you would find in state capitals and big cities. So that is the main problem.
Yes.
Regarding Nigeria's security situation. It is one of numbers, and then following that, it is also one of training as well as equipment. So by the time, addressing these various issues is going to take some time. And in the meantime, these groups are capable, as you have already pointed out, of causing significant damage.
Yeah, on that, I want to touch on this. As Nigeria is seeking increased technical and training support from the United States, how significant could this partnership be in shaping the security landscape?
It could be pretty significant. But at the same time, I think that we need to caution ourselves against when we are looking at what timelines over which we begin to see some improvement. Again, it's an issue of numbers and then training and then equipment. So these things, it takes time to train soldiers, it takes time to equip them, and it also takes time for that training and equipment to begin to be shown on the battlefield, as it were. So it's going to take some time for these things to manifest. What the government is doing is that by speaking to the Americans and the Germans and the Turks, and the idea is to pool all of these various training and equipment resources together and try to use that as well to basically reduce the time it's going to take for there to be clear improvements, in the in Nigeria's security situation.
Yeah. Further on that, how can Nigeria resolve its security crisis by diversifying its foreign security partners, as you mentioned there? And how could the US react to this move?
So I think that the first thing that we need to realize is that the US cannot train all the Nigerian security personnel that need training in a time frame that will make sense for Nigeria. So that is why, of course, the government has been speaking to the Turks and speaking to other countries. So I don't think that the US will have any significant issue, concerning the fact that Nigeria is seeking other partners to basically accelerate the training and equipment process. It's just that the Nigerian security situation is quite dire, and it needs to show some improvement sooner rather than later, because this issue has been going on now for about 15 years or so, and has only been getting worse. I mean, like you pointed out, you have had the Boko Haram group who have been dominating the conversation for a while. But then after that, you then had Islamic State, and now you have the Lakurawa group who are also Islamic State affiliates, as well as a number of other smaller non-state actors who are also armed and who are also extremists. So I think that the point of basically diversifying this security training and equipment is to accelerate the process of getting Nigerian soldiers, up to speed with regards to what they need to do. And I don't think that in that case, I don't think that the Americans will have too much of a problem with that, because, like I said, Nigeria's security situation is quite dire.
Right. Joachim, thank you very much for being with us on First Post Africa.
Thank you, Alyson. Thank you for having me.
The streets roared her name. Supporters climbed rooftops. History seemed ready to repeat itself. Then it happened. A flash. A burst. Panic swallowing cheers. In seconds, Benazir Bhutto was gone. Not voted out, not defeated, but assassinated. Catch the full story on the assassination at these times, only on Firstpost.